What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you for tuning in. Super Bowl 2 days ago, I did episodes last week leading up to the game, talked about how the Seahawks could win, how the Patriots could win. Then I sat there and watched the game play out. And look, I did pick the Patriots to win. I'm a Patriots fan. That's what I do. I also understood, and I hope that came across in how the Seahawks win episode. Seahawks were going to be a formidable opponent. And look, I give Seattle a lot of credit. I'm not one of those who, Seattle wins the Super Bowl and everybody's talking about all the deficiencies of the Patriots. That Seahawks defense was relentless, it was aggressive, it was outstanding. Which, once again, something I kind of expected. Michael McDonald is a defensive coach. You're on the biggest stage. You are going to allow your side of the ball to excel. Look, you could say the same thing about Mike Vrabel with the Patriots defense. Patriots defense played well. Christian Gonzalez out on an island played well. I think he made himself some money from that performance. So, what it came down to was Seattle's O line held up better than New England's. Sam Darnold was able to, escape uh, some plays in the pocket where it seemed like he was kind of doomed to take a sack, which I felt like was very important because those were yards that he saved on drives. Even if the drive ended in punts, he still saved them field position by being able to do that. Was it Michael Dixon, the punter, was absolutely locked in for Seattle. The way that he was able to pin the Patriots deep in their own end time after time, the way that he was able to, in doing so, keep the ball out of Marcus Jones's hands, because when you have an offense that's struggling, sometimes a special teams, play, a long return or something could be that key that unlocks everything. Dixon made it that Marcus Jones was not going to be a factor in the return game. Same with, I guess, Behringer or Borregales, on kickoff returns, like Rashid Shaheed was not a factor. Two teams that were really good in special teams, that was taken away. Um, Kenneth Walker played well. He deserved the MVP. This was the Kenneth Walker that, you know, even I as a Patriots fan, like I love that version. Kenneth Walker is a powerful runner. The speed that he has, which I feel like goes uh, kind of unnoticed with him, like he is a really good running back. And I feel like he should be up there amongst the very best in the league, but for whatever reason, he isn't. And he showed it in that game, and that's why I thought he should have been the MVP, because New England, you feel like they went into that game saying we're gonna stop Darnold in the passing game because of how dangerous Shaheed is, how dangerous JSN is. That was their focus. JSN had 4 catches for 27 yards. Not a lot of defenses were doing that to JSN all season. Shaheed, 2 catches, 27 yards. And Shaheed is a deep ball, merchant, which allows JSN to operate a lot across the field. Now, there was a play where, Darnold rolled out to his left, blitz coming in. JSN did leak out deep, but Darnold overthrew him. Obviously, he makes that catch. JSN's numbers look a lot different. And there was a deep ball to Shaheed with the Carlton Davis coverage, which, the coverage was okay, but it's a pass that obviously Darnold would like to have back. So those two could have had major impact if those two plays were connected, but they didn't. So, the Patriots defense did well against them. Seattle, like I said, their game plan defensively was we're going to overload blitz, we're going to blitz some more, and we're going to create pressure with the front four against an unproven, Patriots line. Because, Will Campbell, Jared Wilson are rookies, obviously. Brad Berry's never been on this stage. Onwenu's never been on this stage. And Morgan Moses, who's been around, for a while, right? So I think it was an old line that Seattle wanted to test. And remember, that was one of the keys that I had for Seattle, was that front four had to create havoc on New England's offensive line, which is why the opposite video for the Patriots, the O-line would have to hold up against maybe their best test. I know everybody looks at Houston and they go, well, they played against Houston. Houston's a little different. With Houston, you're mainly worried about Anderson and Hunter, the edges, and how good that they are. With Seattle, you have to be worried about each and every person along that front four. That's a little different. And New England just couldn't figure it out. Now, we did learn Will Campbell has been, I guess, playing with a torn ligament in his knee. That is not to make any excuse. Like, he needed to play better. I think Will Campbell understands that, because Will Campbell said to himself that, and look, as a Patriots fan, what I take from this game, Vrabel has absolutely, transformed the culture with the Patriots, the locker room. Drake May, as a young player, he understood the moment. He understood he didn't play well. He understands he needs to be better. No excuses were made from him. Will Campbell talked about playing with the ligament and everything. And he basically said, like, look, he didn't play well. You want to criticize him, it comes with the job. I love that mentality. Because that's the kind of mentality that would lead me to believe he's going to go into the offseason, and Mike Vrabel kind of said this. Will Campbell's a rookie. The offseason, he'll get bigger, stronger, and he'll be better for it. So all this talk, and I heard it all over Boston Sports Radio. Basically, as soon as the game was over, the very first chance a lot of these people got to get on the airwaves, it was, Will Campbell has to be a guard. You got to move him to guard. Completely diminishing what he had done all season as a left tackle, where he played well. Then he got hurt, and magically, when he came back from the injury, we saw his performance slip. So it does kind of lead to maybe, he got to a point where, he could handle the pain, because I believe the ligament injury came from the Bengals game, which was the last game he played in the regular season. So, and we know offensive linemen, they play through a lot of injuries. They are a interesting group when it comes to NFL players. So, like I said, that doesn't, excuse his performance in any way. Like, he wasn't good enough. The O-line wasn't good enough. And Drake May, look, for his first time in the Super Bowl, hopefully not his last, his numbers actually look a lot better than you think. Like, he was 27 for 43. That's 63%. I think it's like 62.7% completion. 295 yards. And the 6 sacks obviously was, some of that was on him, but some of that was on the O-line. He had the 2 touchdowns, the 2 interceptions. Now, we look at those 2 interceptions, right? The first one was, pressure's getting to him. He, was trying to stand in there to deliver a throw. His arm gets hit, and it just lands in Nwosu right into his hands. Quick reaction. That was the pick 6. That's rough. Most plays that happens, your arm gets hit, the ball either goes like straight down into the ground or whatever, but it's still a pick. The second pick is the one I probably had the most problems with Drake May. The Patriots offense was finally starting to get some rhythm and some momentum, and it seemed like, Drake May trying to make a play, trying to make a big play, because I think at that point I think the score was 22-13. Or it might have been 22-7. But either way, like, New England had just gone down the field where, you had the Mac Hollins touchdown, which, if you did hear me on Wire to Wire, my prediction was Mac Hollins over 2.5 catches. He had 4 catches on the night and the touchdown catch, which was a Drake May throw. Those are the throws we saw from Drake May all season. So I think that because we saw throws like that later in the game, as they were obviously in desperation mode, I'm not going to sit here and completely kill Drake May's performance. Yes, some of it could have been that the stage, along with what Seattle was doing, was a little bit much, but it's something that you hope he learns from. So, like I said, it was a game that Seattle absolutely deserved to win. They absolutely would have beaten anybody Sunday night. I don't care who your team is. You can't tell me another team in the AFC, with the way Seattle was playing, that was going to beat them. So, like I said, congratulations to Seattle. Kenneth Walker was a beast, which I guess is fitting, because last time Seattle was in the Super Bowl, they had a man named Beast Mode back there. Not to say Kenneth Walker is Beast Mode, but he was dominant. I think, for Seattle, they have, I guess their biggest questions from the offseason will be, do they re-sign Kenneth Walker? We know with running backs, it can be a little tricky because you don't want to overextend yourself for a running back for a position that seems like, it's so easy to replace, not only in free agency, but in the draft if you know what you're doing. They have Kobe Bryant, who's a free agent, the safety, who I think is a big part of their secondary group. They, Mafe, the edge rusher, is a free agent. Rashid Shaheed's also a free agent. So I want to see what Seattle does with those guys. There's others as well, but I think those are the 4 big name, big production free agents that they have. Plus, I guess apparently Seattle's going through a sale, so we'll have to see when that gets completed, what the new owners want to do. But I think Seattle's a team that definitely has staying power. Sam Darnold, I guess, quieted a lot of critics with now winning a Super Bowl ring. But honestly, Sam Darnold was 19 for 38. He completed 50%. He did have the touchdown pass to A.J. Barner, which that was at a point in the game where New England was selling out on the run because the clock was against them, so they needed to stop and all that. And, credit to Sam Darnold, he found A.J. Barner for the touchdown. But it's not like Sam Darnold had this great night against New England either. So I do think the score of 29-13, obviously, if you didn't see the game, which, I mean, it is the Super Bowl, so most people watched it, but if you just woke up and saw the box score, you would think, oh my God, New England got embarrassed. I think the game was a lot closer than the score will tell you. Now, but the issue, obviously, is New England's offense took, I guess, too long to start being somewhat productive with the Nwosu pick 6. Like, if you take that away, it's a much different game. Obviously, you can't do that, but I do think this game was actually closer than the score would tell you. That's why I said these two teams are kind of similar in that defensively they are both very good, and that's what we saw. Because even when Seattle was able to move the ball, New England's defense held them to field goals. So I know, a lot of people are looking at even next year, obviously with New England, it's, can you get another wide receiver? The O-line, which Vrabel said they're going to keep Campbell at tackle, but I believe Bradbury was on a 1 year deal, or maybe it was a 2 year deal. But do they look at maybe moving from Bradbury, move Wilson to center, and go out and get a left guard? I think they could do that. There are some wide receiver free agents that are interesting. I think a lot of Patriots fans will be looking at, like an Alec Pierce from the Colts. Um, Even tight end, Hunter Henry is getting up there, but Hunter Henry is still very productive. Austin Hooper, I don't know. Uh, I think Austin Hooper's fine because he's more of like the blocking tight end, I guess, out of the two. But yeah, I think everybody's gonna look at last offseason. New England went heavy into fixing the defense, and the defense was Super Bowl caliber. I think this offseason, the focus becomes the offensive side of the ball. And based off of the transformation they did defensively, I'm excited to see what New England's offense could potentially look like next season. I think Drake May would be fine. He did talk about the shoulder. He said the shoulder, he just needs rest. He doesn't need surgery. That's good to hear. Like I said, Will Campbell, the torn ligament, I'm assuming there's a procedure coming with that probably sometime this week to kind of get that going. So, yeah. And I also seen people talking about the game was boring. Like, can we stop this? Why is it that we see two outstanding defenses play against each other, and because it's not lighting up the scoreboard, it's all of a sudden boring? I don't get that. I don't understand why football fans do this. It's annoying. But I thought the game was wildly entertaining, and I'm a Patriots fan. I was sitting there watching it with the offense struggling. But I will take great defense any day in a Super Bowl. So it was very entertaining. I thought the performances pregame were entertaining. They were fun. I thought Green Day did its thing. They played, like, I'm not like obviously the biggest Green Day fan, but songs I knew from Green Day, I heard. So I was perfectly fine with it. I thought Puth, Coco Jones, and is it Brandy Carlisle? For whatever reason, I keep forgetting her out of the three. I thought they all did well with their performances pregame, but I kind of expected it. Like, I know Charlie Puth, no Coco Jones. They do their thing. I didn't know who Brandy Carlisle was, but I thought she did well. I thought Bad Bunny was great. I know that's been a topic of, contention these days after the Super Bowl. Look, I took Spanish in school. I'm not going to say I understood, Bad Bunny's performance because I'm not fluent in Spanish, but you watch that, it was, he had a party, he celebrated his Latin heritage. He did say in English, God bless America. He brought out all the flags. He talked about all the nations and basically trying to talk about unity. What really is the problem that people have? Oh, it wasn't in English. So what? Like, if they had put subtitles up there, half of y'all probably would have been like, so now we got to read during the halftime show. So miss me with that point. Bad Bunny did his job. His job's to entertain. He entertained. So shout out to Bad Bunny. I knew a couple of songs from Bad Bunny. I'm going to go listen to some more. So there's that. NFL's trying to grow internationally. They got an international superstar. It's not that difficult to figure out. But yeah. So look, the NFL season's over. Kind of bummed out by that. Big NFL fan. But I'm excited for where the Patriots are headed. Seattle's kind of always been my NFC team that I really pay attention to for whatever reason. I don't know. I've always kind of liked Seattle. Obviously, I live in Atlanta now, so I pay attention to the Falcons too. But Seattle, for some reason, is, I don't know. Maybe I was just a fan of like Marshawn Lynch. I kind of liked Russell Wilson. Legion of Boom. I love the way that they played. I've always had, a a spot for Seattle. So I was kind of conflicted. I love my Patriots. I kind of wish they went up against somebody else in the NFC because now, like, I'm not mad Seattle won a title. Seattle was the best team in the league. They proved it once again on Sunday night. So hats off to them. For us Patriots fans, the future, we have to look at it as being bright. Second-year quarterback. He's probably going to get better. No guarantees they get back to the Super Bowl, but they should be competitive. That's all you can ask for. Just get back to the playoffs. Give yourself a chance. So, yeah, that's my wrap up there. I don't know. I might do another episode this week to kind of wrap up the whole season as a whole. Maybe talk about some things that I might have been right about, that I was wrong about, surprising me, whether it's certain player performances, team performances. I don't know, kind of wrap the whole season up in a bow. I might do one of those episodes this week. But let me know your thoughts on the Super Bowl. What did you think about the game? Thought about Seattle's performance, New England's performance. We thought about the halftime show, whatever. Just let me know anything you felt about the game down in the comments section. I'll be happy to respond back and we can have a conversation. As I always say, any feedback you give this is welcome feedback, even if you want to be critical. Trust me, I can handle it. So go ahead and like, subscribe, follow, share it out, leave a comment, leave a review. Well, I'm pleased either way. So thanks again for tuning in. Yeah, it's so sad the NFL season's over, but thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe. God bless. And I'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye.